Good morning and welcome to Thoughts and Updates. I am here in an industrial part of Glasgow, which is also in the shadow of Junction 22 Plantation, where the M77 meets the M8. Last week I was at St Mackin's graveyard up in Lennoxtown, and last year I was in a lot of car parks. This year it might be a theme that I'm beginning to develop, which is about graveyards, which is the reason why I'm here. Now, during the course of a week I travel a lot, so therefore I listen to a lot of podcasts, and because of the Christmas and New Year I hadn't listened to a lot, but I got back into them this week because I've been out and about a little bit more, and I've been listening to a podcast on Fred and Rose West, which I've not finished yet. However, during the 1960s Fred West lived in Glasgow, and I'm here in McLennan Street, which is where he had an allotment. When he was asked, because he never grew any vegetables, what he was growing there, he told the people who asked him that he was keeping the allotment for another purpose. So the question became, for a number of people who wanted to do books, wanted to do films on Fred West, was, am I actually standing on the graves of 4 women who disappeared during the time that Fred West was in Glasgow? Because the allotment was part of the redevelopment of Glasgow just after that time that became the junction between M8 and M77, or at least it became part of the M8. So we'll never know, because there's nobody going to dig up the motorway to find out. So podcasts this week have been particularly good. I've listened to quite a few, nothing much of particular note, but it is a strange time. Yesterday there was an independence march in Glasgow with people reckoned about 80,000 who braved the weather. Now, as I managed to get in here this morning, it started to rain relatively heavily, and there's been a lot of disruption because of rain locally and round Scotland and down into the north of England. But the rain that might be coming from the north of England may be slightly more political as they wait for the bonus that the Conservative government have promised them. Now, in terms of death and so on, I have also had to, we've been reading a lot of obituaries this week of Alistair Gray, a massive presence in Scottish literature, who wrote a seminal work, Lanark, which was all about Glasgow. Man who was brought up and lived in Glasgow all his life. Somebody who, up until the publication of his landmark book, Lanark, hadn't earned enough in order to pay income tax. He was the writer in residence for the University of Glasgow for 2 years before that. So what were they paying him? Because one of the things that you constantly get as an artist when you're not working as an artist, or you're going and you're developing work and you're doing work in X, Y and Z, is that people say, oh right, oh, it's just a hobby then. You're not really doing it properly, you're not getting paid for it. Well, Alistair Gray has become a man who is an icon in Scottish literature, and well up into the point at which he was not quite close to my age, but not a decade or so away from it. He wasn't earning enough from his artistic endeavour in order to be classed by those people as a professional writer. And yet look at him, a professional artist, yet look at him, the Aaron Moore, the Underground at Hill Head, have all got murals that are unlike any other artist in Scotland, if not the world. And we mourn them, not just because of the Lanark novel, not just because of the art, but also because of his humour. He was a guy who asked for an erratum slip to be placed in every one of his books that said, this erratum slip has been placed in here by accident. So a massive presence on a Scottish literature stage, and a lot of very good obituaries, epitaphs to his influence have been written, which has been nice. Not that we've lost him, but that we recognise him. So it's also that time of year where it is, for those of us who are self-employed, getting out the shoe boxes and sorting out tax. And it's always been a difficult one I don't fiddle my tax, and I can say that openly and honestly, because I've never misunderstood the correlation that exists between tax and services. The fact that we have services which are currently under threat. I've got a stepdaughter who's going to be in the NHS, and she will see firsthand, if she's not already as a student, just exactly what lack of funding means, the lack of care, the lack of opportunity for people who do care to get the support that they need in order to care for the most vulnerable in our society. And of course, because of my brother being in hospital, I might not feel that keenly, but I don't just feel that keenly because of my brother. I've got a daughter who in March will be back in to have her scan to make sure that her heart is still okay. I've got a son who wanders about with thousands of pounds worth of equipment in his ear because he's deaf, and he got a cochlear implant before he was 3 years old. It's starting to get very, very wet in here. So I understand just exactly, because of personally what my family have benefited from, how important it is that we have a proper taxation system. And not only we have a proper taxation system, I've gone very, very dark, but because it's important that people who are the most vulnerable get the most support. So this week, what else have I been up to? There's been a bit of writing. I wrote a brilliant boxer yesterday, 4 world titles that he got, including one for a world title body that I hadn't heard of before, way back in the 2000s. Fought for 16 years, Mark II Sharp Johnson, and I love doing these things for Ringside Report in America because it opens me up to fighters that I never knew anything about, and this is one that I kind of had in the back of my mind. I knew about him. There's not a lot happening in boxing at the moment domestically, but Spike O'Sullivan failed to beat Jamie Mungai last night over in America, but by all accounts gave a tremendous account of himself. And of course, January's a slow start. It's a slow start for everyone in boxing. It's a very slow start because what we've got is probably the return of somebody I keep getting told is the best fighter that ever lived from Ireland. Conor McGregor is only a few weeks away from returning to the octagon, and that will probably, quite rightly, get a lot of fight fans very excited. More than just wondering whether or not he still got it, but hopefully getting to see whether or not MMA is able to be wide enough and stretch wide enough for the presence that is McGregor to return, despite all of the things that have gone wrong in his personal life. So that's quite exciting. In football, it's the point at which the lower leagues get a little bit of a focus because the Scottish Premiership is on a break, and we're hearing about, people going off to Dubai and going on training camps, and other clubs going to less salubrious places than Celtic and Rangers and Aberdeen are away as well. So the focus is on the smaller clubs, and it's really good at that point because there's a real fight in the Championship. The 2 new clubs who have graced League 2 are at the top, Edinburgh City and Cove Rangers, with Brecon City and Stenhousemuir struggling at the bottom. Great to see a former Ayr United Academy graduate go back to football after a couple of years down south, Jonathan Tiffany, again despite the problems that Tiff has had before. And also a good old mate of mine, Ryan Stevenson, signing for Stranraer in League 2. A few years at Troon to get his love back, but somebody who always should have been playing at a much higher level, getting back into a club that is close enough to where he lives to contribute gratefully, and also graced the park with his ability, undoubted, former Hearts kind of almost legend. So lots of stuff there. In theatre, it's also the time where there's not so much happening, and I've been looking at plans and development plans and so on for theatres locally, and it's been great to see, for example, down south, announcement of a cast for Oliver Twist and Brooklyn Melvin, a graduate from the deaf course at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, getting the principal role as Oliver Twist. Sad to see B and Emma go down to London, but absolutely delighted for them, because the reason they're going is that B has got a long-term contract with the Royal Shakespeare Company, which is just wonderful. Fantastic too to see that she can down and keep my son Kieran sorted. So that's been the week that was. There's not a lot that is happening in January. However, one of the great things is getting back out in the car and listening to lots of other different things and lots of different opinions. And the the Rose and Fred West, or the Fred and Rose West podcast, is one that I'm really quite kind of terrified by and also enjoying. And there's going to be a lot of training coming up that I'm going to be involved in. One of the aspects of training that I am involved in is safeguarding, which is interesting because of the developments that are happening at the moment. There's a couple of programmes coming up about the case of Peter Ball, the Church of England cleric who was great friends with Prince Charles. There's the royal scandal at the moment. I hear that the Queen is pulling Charles and his two sons into Sandringham on Monday to discuss things. Perhaps she should be having a chat with Andrew rather than this pair, because the media circus that's around Meghan Markle and the decision of her and Harry not to be involved at frontline, as opposed to the lack of scrutiny that's kind of probably been about Andrew's revelations, is difficult for those of us who are not royalists to really work out why it is that people are so concerned about this mixed race American actress having such a detrimental effect, but a guy who thinks that it is honourable to spend a night in a paedophile's house is not so much of a worry. However, that aside, that's where we're at. So, till next week, hopefully with better weather. And if you have an idea of where I should go